Hello everybody, it is me, Pacific, and a viewer wrote in asking if I would do a video on the dreaded A word, atheism and atheists. And I thought about that and I thought, you know what? I haven't done anything on that. I know there are atheist people that watch my videos and like a lot of what I say and don't agree with everything I say. My videos are not designed to anger you or alienate you from watching me. But, as we all do, I have a viewpoint, and because I was asked to, this is a good subject to talk about. Now, I'm giving a brief, specific, a vitamin capsulized viewpoint of things. If you want more in-depth studies, you can go through a host of online sites and read all about the different contributions made by atheists in atheist history. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to key in on some points that I feel are worth talking about. Excuse me. Atheism really got going more in the 16th century, but it started showing up in the 5th or 6th century BC in places like Africa with the different pygmy tribes and stuff like that, that they had no identifiable cults or rites. But it was really projected into the modern day in the 1800s and specifically in the 1900s, what we call philosophical atheism showed up. But it does say that it showed up in Europe and Asia in the 5th or 6th century BC. Atheism is the belief that there is no God. It is the belief that man is the final summation of knowledge and whatever. Atheism is interesting in the aspect that there's a lot of people that hold to it. People like Dawkins, Madalyn Murray O'Hair, Karl Marx, Stalin, Lenin, others. Charles Darwin. He grew up in a Protestant setting, but yet ultimately his belief system was pretty godless. I wanted to comment on a few things about this. My impression, very young in life, before I even became a Christian, of atheist, was not one that was positive. I heard about Madalyn Murray O'Hair in the news, and all I saw was a rabid, angry, militant feminist who somebody had pissed off, and she decided she was going to go on a vendetta against anything that had to do with God in the public forum, specter, whatever. Madalyn Murray O'Hair is worth reading about. She had a very troubled childhood, and her own son, who ended up becoming converted to Christianity, talks about what it was like growing up under the Madalyn Murray O'Hair era. It wasn't pretty. Sad thing is Madalyn Murray O'Hair was mad. Her own mother basically rejected her and did not show her any love, care, or compassion, which goes back to what I've said before. When children are not raised in loving families, it's anybody's guess as to what the outcome will be, but most of the times it isn't going to be good or productive. In the case of Madalyn Murray O'Hair, she disappeared, and as far as I'm concerned, from what I've read, nobody really knows quite what happened to her. She lived an angry life. She went on a vendetta. And most of the time, all I've seen in any white small town America is letters to the editors, always the town's local atheists banging and harping over a cross on a public courthouse lawn, or somebody singing a Christmas carol or something. And I have marveled, what makes these people so angry? And I want to key in on that. I don't celebrate Christmas. One, because I believe it's pagan to the core, and my atheist friends will back me up on that. There's nothing Christian about it. It's pagan in origin. So is Halloween, so is Easter, so is a host of other holy days that we celebrate in American culture. That I am a Christian. I have a good friend who is an atheist, and we get along rather well. One, because I don't push my viewpoint on him, and he doesn't push on his. We come together, and I do work for him on his property. We have good conversation, and he has some insight that he's revealed to me over the years. I value his friendship. I don't agree with his atheistic underpinnings, though, and we've had some hearty discussions about that. But I have a word for atheists. If Christianity is simply superstition and it's a bunch of bunk, I don't see you guys getting all bent out of shape about black cats and walking under ladders and cracked mirrors and rabbit's feet and all the other silly superstitions that people hold to. Why do you get so mad about some people putting up a cross in a public place? Well, there's supposed to be separation of church and state. Okay. Does that mean that somebody can't use a public site to put up a nativity scene? Why does that bother you so much? What is the problem with that? If a private group puts that up there, nobody's tax dollars are involved. Why does that make you so mad? I'll get to that in a bit. But one of the things I've noticed is most atheists strike me as militant, angry, want to strip those of us that are people of faith of our rights, while boldly championing separation of church and state, they hypocritically want the government to support atheism. And they think that that's supposed to be fair. So we have to have a government devoid of any faith, a government that can't have any convictions, but it's supposed to be atheism. That doesn't sound like the separation of church and state. Let me elaborate further. Atheism is a religion, regardless of what you choose to say. It is the belief in oneself, because everybody believes in something. You either believe in God, you believe in a system of creeds, or you believe in yourself. Atheism is not good. And I'll get to that in a minute. If Christianity is a superstition, why don't you laugh about it and go on about your life? Why is it you're getting so mad about somebody putting up a cross or religious icon on some courthouse plaza? This is the reason. Because atheists are trying so hard to convince themselves there is no God, but I really don't think that deep down inside, they honestly, most of them don't really believe it. That's why they're railing and fighting and protesting and wasting an entire life, feeling like they're championing their right as an American to rid the land of all vestiges of evil of religion. Well, let me tell you something, atheists. I don't like a lot of religion either, including religious Christians. I'm after truth. I'm after the one God who does exist. I'm not interested in the phony baloney that anybody in or out of church has surrounding their life. I make up my own mind and I think for myself. Bertrand Russell wrote a book, Why I'm Not a Christian. And the bottom line synopsis of the book was, because he just can't go along with it. Christians are hypocrites, Christians are this. But you look at people like C.S. Lewis, who became a Christian. Before he became a Christian, he had a problem. If there's a God, and a loving God, how could he allow all the suffering? Charles Darwin had the same problem. Thus, he began his pilgrimage to, when people have a hard time believing the truth, they go out and invent their own view so that they can have some sort of false peace in their life. Charles Darwin wanted to say, well, there can't possibly be a God, so let's go find some evidence to prove that that's the way it is. He found nothing. On his trip to Galapagos on the Beagle, he found nothing. He found different life stuff out there. That did not prove evolution. But scientists still hang on that. What has atheism contributed to the world? Feminism, Planned Parenthood, abortion, and a host of secular humanistic thought that is devoid of hope, devoid of inspiration, color, and passion. What it has brought into the world is angry, colorless, bleak, hopeless, pathetic stuff. Tell me, what does an atheist have to hope for in the afterlife? What does he have to hope for in this life? Earn all the money you can, buy a bunch of stuff. Now let me add an indent here. I'm not saying Christians are better than atheists. That's a fallacious straw man argument of the worst order. There are some atheists that live more morally upright lives than most Christians I know. Sometimes I don't always live up to the way I should. But that's not the barometer by whether we gauge something as true or false. What we have to do is apply the acid test to things. I'm not going to get into a dissertation about science, but what I am going to say is atheists, especially modern-day atheists, have hijacked science and redefined the meaning of science to say that theory is now fact when there's no facts to support the theory. And when they censor textbooks in the public schools and the educational institutions of our land and will not allow for a creationist viewpoint, people in America should start waking up and start asking a very simple question. If atheists believe all this stuff about God is superstition, why are they getting so angry about it? Why are they censoring us? Atheists claim to be open-minded and tolerant, and I find them to be exactly the opposite. They're tolerant if you agree with their views. They become immediately intolerant and angry the minute you start saying, your view is wrong. There is only one God, and whether you choose to believe in him or not, you're not going to take away my rights to worship him. Sorry. Colorado, we got the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Yeah, I believe in freedom from religion too, because I think religion causes a lot of trouble. Religion's not about a relationship with God. Religion's about a system of do's and don'ts, and basically a system of works and how one thinks they can get to heaven by being good people. That is fallacious. The Bible says all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God, so we need a sacrifice for our sins, that being Jesus Christ. I have found that atheism has contributed no good to the world whatsoever. Atheists will say, oh, but we've made great strides in science. Have you? Louis Pasteur was a Christian, or at least had fear of God. There were a lot of Christians that contributed to science, but we don't talk about them anymore. We just want to promote the ones that share our evolutionistic, godless view. Let me tell you what I've observed with the increase in atheism in American culture. While Madalyn Murray O'Hair was on a rampage all through my childhood years, you look at test scores in 1962. They started plummeting. SAT tests among school students in America. A lot of theologians tie that in with 1962 when they removed the Ten Commandments and removed prayer and the Bible and all that out of public schools. I'm not sure, but it is noteworthy to mention. When you teach people that there is no God, what kind of hope do you instill in the children? Why is there a reason to have value? We're just a bunch of dumb animals, survival of the fittest, and we're going to walk around and be good? Why should I? If I want that Hummer that I can't afford, why can't I just steal it? Atheists will balk and yell at me, well, that's not right. Atheists, you can't have it both ways. If there's no God, and it is survival of the fittest, and if I feel that my view is more fitter than yours, and I have the bombs and the hardware and the technological know-how to put you out of existence, well, then I'm justified, right? The problem with atheists is they stop at a standard and reject it, but then they accept part of the standard but reject all this. Sorry, atheists, you cannot go to a smorgasbord all-you-can-eat buffet and say, I'm going to reject all this food and I'll just pick a little this and that. And a lot of Christians do that too. A lot of Christians pick out parts of the Bible they like and ignore the rest. So atheists aren't alone there. Let's talk about some of the contributions that atheists have made. Let's talk about Mr. Dawkins. He's the popular hotspot push button of today. There is not one piece of scientific evidence in his book that shatters creationism. Not one. I've looked at it. He has found no conclusive proof that evolution is truth. It's all circular rhetoric that goes round and round. He himself even admitted he will not talk to Christians because he doesn't agree with them, and all he does in his book is call us, names and refers to themselves as brights. That's not scholastic, folks. Dawkins will come and go, just like all have. Madalyn Murray O'Hair is gone from the scene, but let's talk about Karl Marx. Because atheists' biggest argument is, look at what religion has done around the world. Okay, fair enough. It's not a cheap shot. The Catholics and their Inquisitions and the Crusades, Muslims and all the killing they've done, jihad, and the list goes on. Even a few radical born-again Christians in the U.S. that blew up abortion clinics and did this and that, whatever. But I'd like to see the numbers of people that were killed by atheism. Let's talk about a couple books. There are a couple books, and I'm sorry, I wrote some notes because I want to make sure I know what I'm talking about on some of this other stuff. Humanism, by the way, let's cut to a sidebar for a minute. Humanism, on March 4th, 1987, was ruled as a religion by a judge in Mobile City, Alabama. Interesting. Atheism leaves a man without any inherent value. That is the truth. Atheists will argue with me, and I'm sure I'm going to get every atheist out there writing me, telling me I'm stupid, dimwit, anti-intellectual, and I'm just a dumb. Save it. I've heard it all before. You guys use smoke and mirror arguments to defend evolution. You cannot prove that evolution is true at all. You claim to be intellectual because you go to school and get degrees. And I sit there and I look at the complexity of the human body, and I see no transitional life forms in the fossil record or the living record. And you guys want to get into mathematical equations and bogus arguments about radiocarbon dating and stupid stuff that doesn't prove your view one bit. It's all hypothesis, theory, and subjective garbage. Science doesn't scare me one bit. Nobody can shake me from the truth, or is it God? I have personal testimony in my life of seeing the hand of God in my life. I've seen personal testimony of people quit drinking and get out of addictions and behaviors because of God in their life. Atheist books by Machiavelli, Marx Brothers produced all sorts of evil. That being said, what has Karl Marx accomplished with his atheistic viewpoints? I think we all know. What about Stalin? What about Lenin? All they did was bring more atrocities to humankind in the name of their atheistic underpinnings. Atheists don't like to talk about that. The reason? Because it's a blight on their record. While they want to scream and rail about the evils of religion, they fail to take into account that they've killed millions and millions of people. And what has communism done to set people free? What has communism done to value the individual? Nothing. It has killed it. Communism is one of the worst evil forms of government upon any land or any nation. And yet, the atheists don't want to talk about that. The fact is, they've killed just as many, if not more people than the so-called religions of the world have. But they don't want to talk about that. Atheists demand all vestiges of religious beliefs, phrases, and icons be removed from the public court, yet hypocritically believe government should allow their atheistic views to proliferate. They claim to be tolerant and open-minded, but I don't call that tolerance, and I certainly don't call that open-minded. If you agree with the atheist, you're in. If you don't, we'll shut you down. Atheism has spawned Darwinism, eugenics, the abortion movement, otherwise Planned Parenthood, and communist oppression. I don't call those beneficial things to society. The killing of a human baby because of evolutionary underpinnings, which is murder, which atheists don't like to talk about that, and they like to avoid it, and they like to yell about a woman's choice. That atheism spawns feminism, which I have discussed in many videos, has spawned all kinds of problems in American culture. I don't know when atheists are going to wake up, step outside themselves and their little ego and their little anti-God stance and wake up and ask themselves, what have we produced? True Christianity, if followed, does produce positive changes. People stop drinking. People stop cheating on their wives. People start being good neighbors. People start working hard and stop cheating their employer. They pay their taxes. Yes, I know Christians have done all of those things, and those Christians that have chosen to disobey all of those as well. This is not a case saying that Christians are automatically better or more superior than atheists, because they are not. I've done things that I regret, but so have atheists. They can't even live up to any standard, let alone the one they fabricate in their own minds. We're people. We're human. If Christianity's superstitious, go on about your business and leave us alone. Laugh at us and go, whatever. But atheism has hijacked the public education system, it has hijacked science, and it is still trying to hijack our United States government. Atheists want total control or no deal. They want to shut us down. They want to silence us, just as the feminists do, just as the homosexuals do, just as the pro-abortionists do. They're all one and the same. They're militant advocacy groups for championing the cause of more evil and more atrocities. And anybody who has a conservative viewpoint, we will shut you down. Thank you very much. I'm sorry to offend my atheist viewers, but the truth is, there is nothing intellectual about atheism. That is a ruse. The Bible says in Proverbs, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Atheists scoff at that and go, oh yes, you and your little book of sayings, full of contradictions. How do you know who wrote it? I'm not going to get into that. I've done my research. That book is infallible. It was written. It was God-breathed. And it takes faith to believe that. What atheists will not admit to and refuse to use words like faith, belief, divinity, sovereignty of God. They don't like to talk about that. Let's key in on faith. Atheists have faith in a belief system that believes that humans and plants and animals and oceans and water and hydrogen and atoms and neutrons and electrons and protons and energy and matter of all sorts just exploded into existence out of nothing. I would have to say that that takes a whole lot more faith than to believe in the Genesis account that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth and saw that it was good. Funny thing about people, and especially in American culture, don't confuse me with the facts, please. Don't tell me something I don't want to hear. I want my ears tickled. If there is no God, atheist friends, then get over yourselves. Go on about your life. I don't see you going publicly about people that are driving like idiots and endangering my life every day. You're not championing that. Do you know how many people are killed every day by bad drivers? And I'm not talking people who make mistakes. I'm talking deliberately rude, aggressive, bad drivers. Do you do anything about that? Of course not. Do you champion the cause of people being murdered, 60 million in the last 40 years in America through abortion? No, you don't, because you don't care. Atheism is devoid of compassion. It is devoid of love. It is devoid of hope. It is devoid of passion. It is devoid of color. It is devoid of tolerance. And it's devoid of any inspiration for living. I'm sorry. I don't want to get up every day and live the life of an atheist. Pretty hopeless, dead-end existence. Because it has a dead end. An atheist will argue with me. What about this? What about that? I'm going to do like Dawkins did, and I'm not going to engage. I've had those discussions. People that are brainwashed are not easily reached. Go ahead and believe what you want. What I will give you to chew on or choke on is when you die, send a message to Pacific. Either if I'm in heaven already or if I'm down here on earth. Let me know if you were right in your views. Could you do that, please? If you just died and went back to the earth, let me know, because that's not going to happen. You either go to heaven or hell. And no matter how much grandstanding you do and how much you claim your knowledge and your body of so-called facts proves your case, when you die, there's only two places to go. And you don't know what's going to happen when you die because you haven't been there. And nobody's came back from the dead to tell you, hey, dude, you were wrong. You see, you're having faith in a system, and you're resting your entire being in that chair, and you're comfortable in it. And the day is going to come when you die, and you will face the Lord of the universe. Atheism has contributed nothing good. Don't tell me about the scientists who gain Nobel Peace Prizes and all that. I don't want to hear it. Science, the definition has been changed by the atheists. Public schools have been hijacked by the atheists and the liberals and the feminists and the abortionists and the homosexual community. None of those things are bringing anything good on an American society. None of them. They're terminal. They're terminal. But yet, America keeps plugging along and championing the causes of evil. I really put myself out there today, didn't I, viewers? I have my problems. I really do have my problems. I'm tempted like anybody, and I've done things I shouldn't have done, but I don't legitimize it, and I don't say it's right. I'm not running around murdering people. I take responsibility for my actions. If I slip into sin and get a girl pregnant, well, then I got a baby to take care of, don't I? I don't believe in killing it. I talked about Margaret Sanger yesterday. What a legacy. What a great woman. Championed the cause of birth control. Sounds like a noble cause. The problem with atheists is they want to believe they are God. Therefore, they are their own deity. So to say that they're not a religion is a crock. It doesn't stand up. Most atheists I know are angry, intolerant, militant, and I'm militant too. I realize that, and I do get angry at things, but I enjoy my life. Atheism doesn't trouble me one bit. Why? Because I know in the end, they're all going to go away one day. What troubles me is the fruit that's showing from this heinous belief system that there's no God. 60 million children were put to death because of selfishness, because of a viewpoint of evolution. 60 million people, of which, out of those 60 million, some of them could have been damn good leaders. They could have kept America from getting into the mess it was in. But no, we killed them all. We allow atheists in our country to take away the right for school children to pray, to have the 10 Commandments. I would like to know what is so offensive about the 10 Commandments in the classroom. Honor your mother and father. Quit coveting your neighbor's stuff, his woman and everything else. Thou shalt not bear false witness. Why do these offend the atheists so much? Oh, because it's God! The wrath that comes out of their mouth over the idea that there's a God who has absolutes proves the fact that they got a problem with those absolutes. So in order to legitimize homosexuality, in order to legitimize abortion, we have to come up with an alternative belief system that allows for that. Exit God, enter stage right evolution. Evolution says there is no God, and we can prove it by pseudoscience. Pseudoscience, that's correct. Not science. Science, by true definition, evolution cannot fit into that mold. So we have bait and switch, and we have dog and pony shows. Science doesn't mean science anymore. Political correctness is a joke too. Political correctness it's a wrong oxymoron of the worst order. Politically correctness is defined as this. Whatever we, the establishment, believe is something you should not talk about or say, that would be politically incorrect. But political correctness allows for people to put down Christians and Jewish people and attack people of faith and conservatives and people who believe in the right to keep and bear arms. It's disgusting. Atheism has one goal, people. World domination. Taking away your right to be a conservative, your right to believe in God, your right to have faith in a supreme being. Communism. The same atheists that are screaming and yelling about in America about getting rid of crosses, and what was it, Chief Justice Moore down there in the South, they made an issue about his 2,200-pound stone. Now, let me just say something, atheists. I'll tip my hat to you in one direction. I'm not into religious icons. I think people that make a big deal about religious icons are religious, but maybe not in touch with the master, God himself. God is not interested in religious trinkets. Why Justice Moore insisted on having a 2,200-pound stone in the middle of a courthouse that people had to go around, I don't know. Ironically, Justice Moore was practicing law as a judge, and he was being hard on repeat offenders so that they would learn from the behavior and stop it. But Justice Moore tripped over a stone. The Ten Commandments 2200 stone became a stumbling block for him. His colleagues said, "You got to get this out of here." Nope, nope, nope. He was removed from his position. Which is better, to lose a stone or to stop the scofflaws from doing their ridiculous behavior over and over again, costing taxpayers and emergency responders tons of money and wrecking homes and lives and families? You blew it, Justice Moore. You tripped over a stone. I know a lot of Christians got behind you and felt sorry for you and said that you were, this was a horrible thing. You did it to yourself. You allowed a trinket, a religious icon, to trip you up. If I had the power you did to stay in the court, I'd say, hey, fine, the stone bothers you, get it out of here. As long as I can keep practicing law and come down on these scofflaws, shoot, I'm happy, because I'm representing my conviction of God. I have a relationship with him. I'm not attached to that little rock over there. There are some Christians that aren't very wise. That is correct. Chief Justice Moore chose to take a course of action and be pig-headed and stubborn. I don't care if they want to remove trinkets from courthouse lawns. It doesn't bother me. My faith is not wrapped up in that kind of expression. Atheists have not taken away my right to read the Bible. They have not taken away my right to pray and go to church. I will say that to the atheists. They have not shut me down. So I don't see what the problem is there. But all their railing and screaming and yelling about some religious trinkets, I don't understand. I don't believe in them either. Atheists will never take away my faith in God. They will never take away my Bible, and they will never take away my right to pray, unless they kill me. And then they've just done me a favor, because I go straight to glory. That's not BS brainwash that I buy into. When I became a Christian, the first thing that evaporated in me, literally within 24 hours of conversion back in January of 1985, I woke up the next morning and I was not afraid of death. And I was afraid of death. We were in the Cold War back in the 80s. We all thought Russia or the U.S., somebody's going to push the button, we're all going to blow up with a nuclear mushroom. I was also afraid of earthquakes. I lived in California, went through several major earthquakes, 6.0s and higher. I was terrified of dying. I'm not now. If a doctor came to me and said I had 6 months to live, I would take what little money I have and I would go off to some island somewhere and enjoy myself. Say, hey, I'm going to go enjoy the ocean one last time and then I'm out of here. I embrace it. That's not something I've manufactured, viewers. There are times when I look at this world and I'm disgusted. I'd much rather be where things are right than where things are wrong. I'd much rather be set free from the struggle within myself. And if atheists want to live in their little bondage and their anger and continue to believe the lies they foist upon themselves and believe that there's no supreme deity instead of just bending their knee and admitting that Jesus Christ is Lord and God, that's their choice. But atheists, don't tell me that you're open-minded and tolerant when you want to deny us our rights. We have rights too. If you want separation of church and state, that also includes atheism. Don't ram your views down on the government either. Let the government govern and keep your stuff out of there. Want to go be an atheist? Join the little atheist club and have fun. Let the government govern finances and laws and stuff like that. But if you want to get all bent out of shape over some little nativity scene and a baby Jesus iconic statue on a courthouse lawn, I gotta say something to you. Get a life, dude. Does that unravel you that much? I don't even pay attention to that stuff. It means nothing to me. It's trinketism. It's bric-a-brac, tchotchkes, whatever. I know I'm going to offend a lot of Christians too. That's why I like doing my videos, because I speak and think on my own. I don't follow the church, I don't follow the atheists, and I don't follow the government, and I don't follow the LL Bean and the SUV and the coffee drinking $5 coffee. Pacific is Pacific. And I say something that speaks to everybody. And there are things that everybody will agree with on some points or another, and things that they will disagree with on some points or another. I like being out of the box. I like a commercial years ago for Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. A direct slap at the big McDonald's and Burger King franchises. Well, I think outside the bun. Atheism has not contributed any good to society. Feminism has destroyed American women. Planned Parenthood, what a joke. Margaret Sanger was a racist. Origin of Species with Mr. Darwin was a racist. Lenin, Hitler who rampaged through Europe was a racist, and he said that Darwin gave him the impetus to do that. Survival of the fittest, guys. The Catholic Church told him to stop doing what he was doing, and Hitler coolly responded, I'm just doing what you've been doing for centuries. The Catholic Church got real quiet. You see, the bottom line common denominator of all these things, Satan's behind every one. Oh yes, the devil, not the dude with little red horns. That's another laughable thing. One of the most beautiful creatures God ever created. And the way the devil gets through people is through this right here. Give people false information, and that gets down into their heart, and that determines a life and a lifestyle. Catholics don't represent true Christianity. Neither does atheism. Neither does any religion. Christianity is Christianity. Jesus Christ is the way, the truth, and life. People, even in Protestant circles, in evangelical circles, put all these traditions and wrap all this stuff in church around everything, and most of it God has nothing to do with. I find that if people read the simplicity of the Gospels, that Jesus' harshest words were for religious people, something that most atheists fail to recognize. Jesus had it up to here with religion as well. He came to set people free, he came to give them life, and he came to love them, and he wanted to heal them of their innermost problem, the problem of this. Atheists, thank you for listening to me. I'm sure I've offended you and stepped on your toes. I don't hate, though, so don't take it as that. I don't agree with your beliefs. Please don't send me boatloads of information and comments to post saying that my view's wrong. I'm not going to post them. Am I afraid? No. The information that you choose to draw from is baseless. I don't believe in atheism, and I know that deep down inside you guys are trying to convince yourself there is no God. You better hope you're right, because in the end, you're putting an awful lot of faith. Just the fact that you so-called intellectual atheists can look at the human body and say this all just happened by an accident is beyond the scope of Pacific's limited understanding. That all this stuff could explode out of nothing. Funny, God created all this out of nothing, but he's God, he can. Just the systems from the eyeball to saliva glands to the olfactory senses to hearing to, yes, an orgasm in a male penis that shuts off the vas deferens so urine can't come out but semen can. And you're going to sit there and tell me there's no design involved? My atheist friend says, that's the beauty of it. It's all random. Atheist, would you believe me if I told you my Ford pickup truck assembled itself just in the way it is, out of dirt in the ground? You'd laugh at me. I'm not laughing at you, but it's pretty ridiculous that you say that this complexity called us happened by accident. You go ahead and go back to your mathematical calculators and your carbon dating and your shredded, spotty, sketchy, pathetic, nothing to prove in favor of evolution so-called evidence, and tell me how you can come up with such a preposterous viewpoint. And I will tell you and every viewer out there, the reason you believe in atheism is because of two simple things. We are all rebellious, and it's not natural for people to submit to a creator that tells them what to do. It is human nature to rebel. Son, don't get in that cookie jar when I'm gone. What is the first thing the kid does? Get in the cookie jar. Atheists Excuse me. Atheists want to believe that if they want to pursue a sinful lifestyle, that there's no absolutes. In order for there to be no absolutes, you have to deny the one who gave those absolutes. That's why evolution is a great fallback for them. The problem is there's no facts, no science to support it. The complexity of the human body and the simple cell is unbelievable. For an atheist to have that kind of faith and claim that his belief system is not a religion is not only anti-intellectual, he's boneheaded and stupid. I'm not going to get into black holes, and I'm not going to get into all this stuff. Why? Because it doesn't shake me. It doesn't prove evolution. People want to get into adaptation and all this crap. I don't have a problem with adaptation. It still doesn't prove evolution. You can't tell me that a skunk turned into a human or a whale came from a bird. It's ridiculous. The fossil record should be loaded with tons of transition life forms, and strangely they're absent because there was a global flood that buried down in rock layers and sediment and compressed these animals, preserving them to turn into fossils without being eaten by scavengers. No meteorite hit. These things aren't millions of years old. But don't confuse me with the facts. I want to believe it's okay to be homosexual. I want to believe it's okay to do what I want, so therefore I'm going to get rid of God. That's what it boils down to. That's why we have atheists. The other reason we have atheists is because they have a problem with all the suffering in the world. The Bible talks about why that happens, but they don't look at it and they don't read it. That when God gave Adam and Eve a choice, and this is part of American culture's problem, nobody wants to take personal responsibility. God said to Eve in the day, and Adam and Eve, in the day that you eat of that, you shall die. In the Hebrew it says, dying thou shalt surely die. Two deaths, physical and spiritual. God's intent was for man to live forever. Man made the decision not to live forever. He then made the choice to say, I don't need you, God. God said, okay, but God's still good, and he made a sacrifice down the road. He even made sacrifice for them right there. Took animal skins. If you don't want to trust in a living God, that is your choice. But please, spare us the buffoonery of telling us there is no God and that people just happen by accidents. We know you don't want to follow the rules. Why don't you just admit it? But the other problem people have is the idea of suffering imposed upon a world. God made it clear that when we did that act, we brought that into existence. Read in Genesis. Cain and Abel. Cain murdered Abel, and it just goes downhill from there. Man doesn't want to admit he's responsible for the very evil. Atheists cry, if there's such a loving God, how can he let that plane loaded with children crash? If there's such a loving God, how come he allows many planes to fly when the mechanics didn't do their job and you get a drunk pilot at the helm? Huh? You see, that goes both ways. How come more earthquakes don't happen? How come God doesn't just come down and go swat the earth out like a basketball? I know we all have a problem with suffering, and it sucks. To blame all that on God, and then to demand that God, if he really exists, that he's supposed to automatically intervene. Oh, interference. Oh, here comes a sickness. Oh, God be on a basketball court or a badminton court. Ridiculous. He gave us free choice, atheist. We bring a lot upon ourselves. God's not our Santa Claus that he should just come down and keep all these bad things from happening. What about what you guys did? Did God stop Karl Marx, Lenin, Stalin? Nope. Hitler? Nope. He didn't. He didn't even stop you. He didn't stop Madalyn Murray O'Hara and her vendetta. Why? Because he gives people choice. In the end, he'll judge it all. So be fair. Why does he allow disasters? Because. Why does he allow you to say the atrocious, ridiculous, BS things you say? Because he's God and he gave us free choice. He doesn't force you to come to him. This video is dedicated to the viewer that asked me to do one on atheism. I hope you find this somewhat stimulating. This is not the sum total of all of it, but it's my brief synopsis of atheism. Bottom line is, dead-end belief system. This is Pacific, signing off. Bye-bye.